Well, in case folks you are just joining us, let me say one more time, please. Welcome to Global Teleclass. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to tonight's teleclass, 5 Steps to Love Yourself Thin, Spiritual Weight Loss from the Inside Out with Cecily MacArthur. Now, tonight is your opportunity to learn 5 powerful steps to take control of your weight for good by releasing pounds from the inside out and shifting how you see your body, your mind, and your spiritual growth. Now, Cecily MacArthur is a world-class dream life coach and a spiritual weight loss mentor. She's a certified life mastery consultant and business partner with Mary Morrissey of Life Solutions, a certified life coach, and an experienced transformational teacher and author in the Human Potential Movement. She's the author of the book, 7 Ways to Stay Positive in Challenging Time. She regularly conducts teleseminars on dream building and spiritual development, hosts a monthly interview show called The Light Beam Hour, and has co-hosted 4 successful telesummits on angels, the law of attraction, energy healing, and the chakra system. Wow. Like I said, Cecily, amazing. And her background also includes, by the way, folks, 20-plus years as a corporate organizational and management consultant, trainer, and coach, and a lifelong commitment to her own spiritual growth. So she brings that lifetime of achievements and knowledge with her tonight as Global Teleclass is very proud to present 5 Steps to Love Yourself Thin, Spiritual Weight Loss from the Inside Out. Welcome to Global Teleclass, Cecily.
Oh, wow. Thank you, David. Appreciate it so much. Great introduction, and to get our audience all ready for our presentation tonight. So thanks again. And it's great to be on Global Teleclass again. This is my 3rd time coming back, and I've enjoyed it. It's a great forum, a great platform, and it's a great honor to be able to teach in this way. So welcome to everyone who is out there. I love a worldwide audience, and it's always great to know there are people even who are on in Wednesday listening to us tonight. So it's great to have you with us, and welcome. And I just wanted to start with having a little understanding about how my approach here tonight, because 5 steps for spiritual weight loss from the inside out is a really unique concept that it's based on my own experience that I've went through, because I have released in 18 months over 100 pounds. So that's a lot of weight. It keeps going up. I think that I've reached the bottom now. That's where I'm stopping. I've gone from a size 20 for the ladies out there who appreciate this, from a size 20 to a size 10. Very exciting to wear size 10 jeans. Never been on size 10 jeans as an adult, so it's very exciting to be skinny for the first time in my life. And so I'm going to talk to you tonight about my journey and what I discovered along the way, and what I teach and coach people about this, as I really have become a weight loss mentor for people who have been wondering, what did I do to actually make this happen? So I'm going to talk about that process with you tonight. So I'm going to start with just a little clarification on the overall discovery process that I went through, because your basic nutrition and eating well, eating whole foods, eating natural foods, big important piece. I was big on cleansing. We're going to talk a little bit about the food plan that I used. And exercise. All of these things are important and very key. You're not going to lose weight eating pizza and ice cream and sitting on the couch. It just doesn't happen. So what we're looking at here is, though, I've kind of shifted the emphasis. I'm not going to talk about food and exercise, which is what most people do when they talk about weight loss, because to me that's really only about 30% of the equation. It's important, and it's important 30%, But it's the really the 60-70% that I feel is the key, and that's what we're going to focus in on, is the spiritual work, the inside work, doing the healing that you need to do to make a difference, to shift from carrying that extra weight, and for me, from a lifetime of carrying extra weight. Knew that I had to do more than just your basic food and exercise. So we're going to take a look at that and really have a sense of what is that 60-70%. And I just want to also think about the language here, because language is so important, as we're going to talk about looking at how we even think about ourselves and the words we use. And I just wanted to also make a shift around the idea of losing weight, because I never liked the idea of losing weight, because I think that's the idea that you find it again. If you've lost the same 20 pounds as I did over and over and over again, then losing weight is not the language that we like to use. So I like to think of it as releasing weight. It's releasing it out. It's gone. It is not coming back. So I try to keep in that framework of releasing weight. And then I also wanted to talk about it in terms of it, even thinking about weight sometimes can be limiting. So in honor of my dear friend Hattie, she talks about it being getting closer to your core. So I really like this concept of core, because it's not only the physical core, being able to actually see those stomach muscles and those hip bones. I was like, wow, look at that. There they are. But also it's your spiritual core. It's really who you truly are. It's part of getting your body congruent with your insides, and your spirituality is really setting up the experiencing more of who you are. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do, is to be fully who we are and to really bring our divine magnificence into the world. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to release weight. We're going to get closer to our core. We're going to think about it in 5 different steps. And to start with, the first step that's really important to talk about is raising your vibrations. Not a new idea, but when it comes to the body, it was a new idea for me. So I'm going to talk about that. And then feeling your feelings, sometimes a very difficult thing, something I am still working on and have made huge progress in, but know that that's going to be a continuous issue. Practicing forgiveness. If you're breathing, you need to forgive. We just all need to be in the forgiveness mode here, and a lot of that's held in the body, so we want that to go away. Fears, releasing fears. We live in a fear-based world, and that keeps us in the low vibration. So identifying those and letting them go, big deal, definitely. And then the step number 5 is listening to your heart. And this is so important to really go inside, to listen to your divine connection, your inner voice, your higher self, and you develop your intuition so you can actually decide what to eat from that place, decide what to do that's loving for yourself from that place, and really learn to take advantage of the knowledge that's available to all of us all the time, but we just don't stop and listen. All right, so we're going to start with before we get into the actual 5 steps, I want to talk about my story a little bit more so you understand where I'm coming from. And if you have heard this story before, I will be going through the concept again of the background that I have brought to this journey, this search, this new way of being. So back in October of 2008, I was overweight, exhausted, and a miserable corporate consultant. I was making 6 figures. I was very successful. I was on a plane. I was traveling all over the country. I was doing important work. I thought this was my life's calling. But I was pretty much ignoring my body, and I was pretty much a miserable person. Did not like myself, did not like my life, was not at all happy, or just in the idea of wanting a change in my life, but not really understanding it. So as works with the universe, I got a wake-up call because I found out in October of 2008 that I had cancer. And if people have been experienced with cancer and or any family members, you know that this is a really scary thought, and particularly for me because I was diagnosed with early-stage ovarian cancer. And this is basically a concept of a miracle that I'm alive. And I didn't understand that. It was the next morning when I woke up after surgery where they had found the cancer. Nurse came into my room with tears in her eyes, and she looked at me. She said, "Cecily, you don't understand what a miracle you are." She said, "We never find ovarian cancer in the early stages. It's always found in the late stages because there's no symptoms, and it's always fatal." So that was my wake-up call. I basically got it. It's like, all right, God has a purpose for me. I'm supposed to be dead, and I'm not, and I got to clean this up here. I cannot go back to the way that I was living. I cannot do the same things that I did. I cannot be in this misery that I was in. I need to change. And it was a really difficult lesson, but it was certainly what I needed to wake up and to start making changes in my life. And again, I had to go through chemotherapy, nasty stuff, really had to really start extremely debilitating to the body. And so I had to really sort of practice my spirituality from that point on to try to keep my light going. Chemotherapy is a very dark process, and it's cells are dying. It's a form of death. And it's really trying to stay in the light and try to rebuild myself and to protect myself with alternative healing processes while I was doing that. So I really had to bring my whole body back. I could barely walk up a flight of stairs. I was so debilitated at the end of that. So I had to change my entire lifestyle. I changed my food and my exercise. I changed my boyfriend, and I changed my job. I knew that I could not continue to do this corporate work anymore. So I moved into the coaching field. I got a dog because it was the top of my list, and I adopted a great rescue dog, and he's with me now, and my best buddy. I did a lot of work around clutter and letting go of things. I had a lifetime of stuff didn't really need, and then I actually became an entrepreneur and changed the whole idea of working for someone else to working from me, creating my own company, being the president of my own company, and figuring out how to do that. It was all new and it was all scary, and I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I kept trying to embrace my spiritual side and really listen to my intuition. I learned to work with angels a lot, and people have heard any more of my presentations and potentially some of my telesummits know about how I enjoy working with angels and really tapping into that knowledge and ability to have that extra support in whatever I do. So lots of experimenting, learning, classes, changing the way I was doing things with different practices and techniques to figure out, to really change again how I was showing up in the world. Wanted to be more of who I was. But throughout this whole process, my weight was only down about 20 pounds. I had changed my diet. I thought I'd done everything. I was exercising more. I got the dog. I'm out there twice a day, walking on the beach. And the weight was just not coming off. And I was a little discouraged in that. I was trying to figure out what it is now. I've changed all the other things. I know I'm happy. I'm going towards my life purpose. I'm being more of who I am. I'm doing all these things, but the weight was still there. And I finally made a decision in November of 2010 that my body really needed to be congruent with how I felt inside. I had done all this work, but this chubby body just didn't fit right. It's not who I was anymore. And I had to really make my mind up that was it. Something had to change. And after I made that decision, about 2 weeks later, my friend Sandra came around with a new product that I hadn't heard of before called Isogenics. And this is not an Isagenix ad, so I will only spend a moment here, but it was an important jump start for me. It's a great product. It's all natural. It's a healthy, balanced nutrition meal substitute, along with a very rigorous cleansing program that really works on getting toxins out of your body, particularly out of the fats. A wonderful, wonderful program and great foods and a great company that I was able to find to get that going. And if you're interested in understanding more of that, and particularly if you have a large amount of weight to lose, I'd highly recommend using a really healthy weight loss product. So many of the meal replacements are so chemically laden that they're not really food. This is real food. This is natural food, about as clean as you can get. So that really helped to start that. It gave me some momentum to really start to lose the weight and to have it start to melt off, and realizing that I needed to make a real shift in what I was putting into my body and how I was treating particularly the cleansing piece, really important piece. So moving on from that, again, if you're interested in that, let me know, and lots of really good information on that. But it was a good start, and it was, going in a diet. I'd been on a diet, really, did my first diet when I was 13 years old. So I knew how to lose weight. That was the issue. I didn't know how to release it, though. And that was the concept. And starting with the Isagenix, I really wanted to shift the perspective. So think about that. I've talked to different clients of mine. How old were you when you went on your first diet? I had a client that was she was 9 when her mother put her on a diet, and it's just incredible to think about. So many people spent their entire lives on diets, and the frustration of it, and the shame of it, because we lose weight and we gain it back, and we lose weight and we gain it. We feel like a failure. We feel like we haven't got the discipline. We feel like we are not. It's not possible for us to actually get to the weight that we want. The original goal I had set for myself was for 50 pounds, because that was all I could possibly imagine that I could lose, was 50 pounds. So, I was like, I'd be happy. I'll lose 50 pounds. That would be, a miracle. That would be amazing. But when I got to 50 pounds, I was like, hey, I'm going to keep going because I got it now. This is working. So you really had to make that decision and think about that diets don't work long term. So thinking about the keys to that and how to actually make that happen. So let's start talking about step number 1, because the big key here, and it's not a new concept, a lot of people talking about it, particularly these days, is raising your vibration. So what do I mean by that? I like to use the energy scale, and I've been using this for a couple of years with clients, and thinking of a high vibration on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is high. 10 would be where love and joy and peace and gratitude exist. That's the high end of the scale. That's the ultimate. The low end of the scale is where shame and guilt and fear and anger. That's where that exists, and it's low vibration. That's where it's constricted. It's heavy. On the high end, it is light and expansive. Two very different ends of a spectrum. So I'd used this scale for quite a while, but I had not ever applied it to my body. And it sort of occurred to me, it's like, all right, where am I on the scale when it came to my body? And I was like, boy, there it is. I'd done all this other work, so the rest of me, I was feeling pretty good, high energy, doing lots of things, meditating, doing practices, feeling good. But when I actually focused on my body, how high was the vibration? How much did I love my body, my physical body? It came into like a 3 or 4. I mean, pretty sad. We're talking low end here. Lots of shame, lots of guilt, lots of anger. Not a good place. And I was like, wow, okay, that explains a lot. Now I understand, because if I've done a lot of work with law of attraction. We all hear so much about it, thoughts are things, and we are what we focus on. A whole mind-body connection here. I realized that if you put that together, that my body, this chubby, extra 100-pound body, was actually a direct result of my thoughts, of what I create. I created that. I had to own that. I had to take 100% responsibility that I created the body that I had. That's a tricky one. It was hard for me to wrap my head around that. And maybe tricky for you to think about it. So where are you on that scale? Scale of 1 to 10. How much do you love your body? Where are you coming in? And are you willing to take 100% responsibility for the condition of your body, knowing that you have created it from your own thoughts? Something to think about. This is what I work with people on, help them to see that. It's not easy. But the good news is, if you created what you have now, you can also create your dream body. You can change it, because you can change your thoughts. You can change what you want for yourself. So that's the cool part. So I started to get into that. Like I said, that 50 pounds was part of my goal. I could vision 50 pounds. And I started trying to figure out what I would be doing if I was 50 pounds lighter, how I would be feeling, what I would be wearing. I started working on the idea of buying a belt. I had pictures of belts and tunics with belts, and the idea that I could actually wear a belt. I had never owned a belt in my life, because my waist was not the place I was going to emphasize anything. I didn't own a belt. And I was like, all right, this is my goal here, is lose 50 pounds and get some really fabulous belts. So I started to really get a picture of what I would look like, what I could do, where I wanted to be, and trying to shift into that. So think about that for yourself. Where are you when you think about what you want for your dream body? What would it be? Some people have had a dream body in the past, and they just have more recently put on extra pounds, or as they got older, or after children. And so you might have a vision of a dream body that you had when you were younger. I didn't have that. I had no picture of it. I didn't know what that was like. I was always chubby. All my memory was just this chubby person. So it was challenging to really think about the possibilities of what I could be. But it's really an important piece to look at. And then when you've got that dream, you want to really look at what it is that gets in the way. And this is where limiting beliefs come in. And we spend a lot of time working with people on what those limiting beliefs are. What is it that you don't believe you can have about your body? What is it? Where did these thoughts about your body come from? When did you first get shamed about your body? And that was really very interesting to think about that. How old were you when you first felt shame or guilt or a anger about your physical body? So it was very interesting for me. Was with a client time she was talking about that. And if you're in your 50s or 60s or maybe even older, and you remember grade school, we used to have a nurse in the school, and every year she would weigh and measure every child, and you would get in a big long line, and then you would go up and take your turn on the scale, and then get measured with what your height was on the scale, and the nurse would record that for you. And I remember just the anxiety of that, as my client had mentioned it, and I was like, wow, yeah, I remember that. It was just a humiliation of getting on the scale and realizing that the nurse would then sort of whisper what my weight was, because it was so much more than the other children. So the person writing it down she would just sort of whisper it to her so nobody else could hear how much heavier I was than the other children. And I was taller than them too, so on both counts, I was a very big, tall, and chubby person. So liking my body at a very early age was just not possible. So think about that. There's some, usually from our childhood, we have these subconscious feelings, our beliefs that are limiting about our ability to actually achieve the dream body that we want, to actually believe that we can actually have that and that is possible for us. So again, it's part of the self-image we have and how we feel about our body and where that actually started. And knowing that a lot of this is coming from conditioning, especially for women. We have all of the models in the magazines that are held up as the ideal, and or one client who talked about she and her brothers would steal her father's Playboy magazines. They knew where he hid them in the house, and they would look at the pictures. And, she would see these women and think, oh, that's what men like, and that's what I have to be, and that's what I'll never be, because she was a chubby child also. So humiliated at an early age to think that she would never be attractive because she didn't look like that. And how the pressure we have on being perfect and having these perfect images, and how that develops into our ego develops it into this incredible poor self-image of who we are. And I want you to remember that the ego's job is to be the voice of fear and to bring you down to the low end of the scale, to bring you back there with the shame and the guilt and the fear and the anger. That's what your ego is. The ego is really, its job is to make you miserable. That's what it does. And I like Wayne Dyer thinks of the ego as edging God out. So it really is a challenge to work against it and realize that that's all lies, that all of your thoughts and all those negative beliefs or those limiting beliefs are all lies and not true. There's no truth with a capital T in them. They're just what you've been conditioned to believe about you. Somewhere in your childhood you got programmed into fear and loathing for your body, as I did. So part of it is really trying to turn that around. So continuing to think about raising your vibration, really shifting and loving your body, and really making an effort to say nice things to it, to admire it, to be grateful for it, particularly grateful. Gratitude is a high vibration issue, and I tell my clients you've got to love every cell in your body, including the fat cells, because if you don't, they're going to come right back. And that's the concept here, is that you have to shift how you think about your body. You've got to be grateful. You've got to start loving it. I didn't own a full-length mirror, so I had to go out and buy a full-length mirror so I could actually look at my body. I was definitely, from the head up, I was okay with my body, but the rest of it I didn't even want to look at. So learning to look at it, learning to love it the way it is in the present moment. So not necessarily to love it when it gets to the ideal, but to love it right now the way it is. Very important. If people are familiar with Dr. Emoto and the experiments that he did with water, and the whole idea that when people had said loving thoughts to the water, and or he took samples from holy places and shrines around the world, and those crystals for the loving water were these beautiful gorgeous shapes and looked like snowflakes and just had such beauty in them. When you looked at them, they felt so wonderful, and they just made you feel a higher vibration just in looking at them. And then on the opposite side, they had people saying awful things to water, saying, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, and even taking water out of really polluted places. And that water, then the crystals on that were really ugly and malformed. And when you looked at them, they were disturbing. They definitely had the heavy feeling to them. So thinking about that, if we are 70% water, our bodies are 70% water. Now, every cell in your body made up of water is going to respond to the thoughts that you have about it. So how are you thinking about your body right now? What do you think the things that you say to your body? Can you really shift into loving, peaceful, grateful thoughts? So thinking about your dream body, should be at the high end of the scale. When you really picture yourself, you want to think about high vibration, and you really want to know that you can create that and that you're going to experience and feel what that's like to have that high vibration. And instead of moving to it, you're actually creating from it. And that's what we're going to be working towards in getting you to change your vibration. So it's an important one, so we spent a little extra time on that, but it definitely is something to think about. Where is your vibration right now? Use that 1 to 10 scale, really important to understand that you can change it in any moment, and particularly when you think about your body, catch yourself when you're saying horrible things. Catch yourself when you're looking in the mirror, looking at all your flaws, and instead turn it around. Love your body. Tell your body how important it is, how wonderful it is that it's housing your spirit in this earth plane at this time, and that how grateful you are for it. It's important. So, all right. So step 2, now that you have raised your vibration, you're going to think about feeling your feelings, because this is a tricky one. It was a tricky one for me. And I'd be talking about the idea of having thoughts and feelings and actions in alignment. So we really, if we're changing our thoughts, we really want to think now about our feelings and really have them be congruent with what we want to achieve around our dream body. And I was pretty numb. I was trained to be numb. It wasn't safe to feel, and I grew up in a fairly volatile environment, an abusive environment, and feeling was not a good thing. So I was pretty numb most of my life. When I had my wake-up call, that was really an amazing process to realize that how you could be so asleep, basically, and not really noticing how unhappy I really was. So being able to feel your feelings is very critical, but it's very typical of a lot of people with a lot of extra weight that they are numb, that they don't feel their feelings, that they can't really get in touch with what's going on in their emotions, but also the emotions in the body. They're really not in their body. I wasn't in my body. I didn't spend much time. I didn't look at it. I didn't have a mirror to look at it. I was, all about the intellect. That's how I made my living. So I lived in my head. I was my spirit was kind of hanging out around my head and shoulders. The body was just, something that I dragged around with me. And that's why I got sick, because I wasn't paying attention to it. So, thinking about noticing the feelings and being able to be okay with that. And a lot of people also who have extra weight tend to be oversensitive people. And as a child, I was definitely in that state. And when we have grown up in an environment that doesn't appreciate the sensitivity of children, and or we had negative results as experienced childhood traumas or abuse or even self-abuse, it became really hard to feel. And so the weight was really a protection for that in a lot of ways. So a lot of conditioning around and limiting beliefs about what I can feel and what's safe and what my body can look like as a result that would be safe. So that's an interesting issue. So think about that in terms of yourself. Where are you in the ability to feel your feelings? You can use the scale 1 to 10 again. If you were going to really rate that today, when I started out, again, I'd probably like a 4. Today, I'm proud to say I'm up there. I get my 8s and 9s, and I have an occasional 10, where the tears just come, and I am feeling great. But I've been working on it. I've been consciously practicing feeling, and it's something that is a process that you need to go through to do that. So I really want to think about what gets in the way of you being able to feel your emotions and how you can actually tune in to do that instead of using food to stuff your emotions. Definitely, you can find myself roaming the cabinets for a snack, and if I stop and say, okay, so what's going on? What do I really want? What's going on emotionally? for me. I can find that, oh yeah, I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, something is going on that wants me to, triggers me to eat, because that's what I used to do in the past. So it still happens. It happened to me this afternoon. I was writing, and I got frustrated, and all of a sudden I'm in the kitchen, I don't want a piece of fruit. I wanted carbohydrates. I wanted sugar. It's what we do. And, we can also stuff our emotions with alcohol and drugs, and we do a lot of self-medicating. It's just part of what we do. We don't want to feel, and a lot of addictions are also so we don't feel our feelings, and it's a way that we've adapted because it hasn't been safe. So we do something that keeps us from feeling our feelings. It can stuff it. And we also miss the idea of what's happening in the body when we are not in touch with our emotions. We're not in touch with what's trapped in the body, the messages that the body has. The body is very, very wise, and if we can connect with the body and really get information from the body, it can be amazing. When you really develop a body dialoguing, for instance, is what I use with my clients, and getting people to really talk to their bodies and have amazing conversations with their bodies, and healing conversations, and also releasing a lot of these trapped emotions with a lot of the weight that we carry in a lot of different areas, and the different chakras also are depending on what happened, particularly the lower three chakras can be areas where we are holding a lot of our emotions, particularly childhood traumas. And so that's really important to get in touch with that. And oh, by the way, the wonderful aspect of this is you can really feel the joy. That's what I'm excited about, is to really feel love, to be able to really live from your heart. You can't live from your heart if you're not feeling your feelings. You're in your head. You're going to stay in your head until you can actually feel your feelings and have it okay to be living in your heart and really feel love and really live your life from that loving place, from that high vibration. You can't do that, and you miss out. A lot of people come in around a 5 on the scale. It's kind of a neutral place. They may not be, in the negative zone, but they certainly are missing out on the high end, and all the joy of life is there. And that's what we really want to be able to do that for ourselves, really getting self-compassion and starting to feel good. Our purpose here is to feel good, and we really need to do that and really figure out what it is that we need in every moment, so we can start to love our bodies more, and we can be more loving to our bodies instead of abusive to our bodies. And we can ask our body, is that piece of chocolate cake, is that a loving thing? Is that really what I want to put in my body? Is that something that's from a loving place, or is that from an abusive place because I loathe my body and I don't care what I put into it? So part of it is really thinking about that and really making choices around what's loving for me. Is exercise loving? Is getting out there and really doing something that you love in exercise? Or is going to the gym and forcing yourself to over-exercise? I have a client who had that amazing epiphany that she was really self-abusing in the exercise mode. She thought she had to do this, and she wasn't enjoying it. She was just beating her body up, and she thought that was a good thing. And she realized that was not from a loving place. So part of it is really getting that connection and understanding, what makes you feel really good. What does your body want at this point? Maybe it just needs a glass of water, or maybe a walk outside, or some deep breathing. Breathing is so important for the body. We don't breathe enough. Just stopping and breathing. Yoga is an excellent concept, or some kind of exercise that makes you, whatever makes you feel good. Sometimes you just need a nap. You just need to lie down and go to sleep, but we don't allow that for ourselves enough. So what's a loving thing that you can do for your body? What comes to mind? What could you do tonight for your body that would be loving? Think about it as you go through your day tomorrow. What would be loving for your body? Really think about how you want to do that. So really understanding all of the feelings is a lot of work and a lot of practice. And it's really helping you to shift out of the shoulds concept. Again, it's working. That's the head, the ego stuff. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. and really getting in touch with instead what's a loving thing to do. So thinking about, how much of the things you're doing on a daily basis are from a loving place versus a should place or a self-abusive place. So there's lots of practices, and we don't have time to go into a lot of them now, but there's ways to get in touch with feelings. There's ways to really be safe having feelings, because so many of us don't understand that or feel that they can go there. So part of it is really embracing our anger and our fear, particularly. Even the Dalai Lama gets angry. The trick is he doesn't stay there very long. Anger has a purpose. Anger is there to say that our boundaries have been violated. We need to have anger. It's feedback. But we don't want to dwell on it, and we don't want to get stuck in fear. Fear is, the idea of danger, and the whole caveman, saber-toothed tiger fear response. That's a survival issue. But we were not made to live in a fear-based place. So how can you shift those things in a healthy way? How can you feel them and then let them go? So you're not keeping them, you're not dwelling on them, and most importantly, you're not letting them get stuck in your body, which is one of the aspects of adding extra weight. So all right, so now once we're in touch with our feelings, one of the areas in the feeling category that's so critical is to work on forgiveness and really release the negativity that it causes in the bodies. It's really a idea that going to work on high vibration and creating what you want in your life. It's not going to grow in toxic soil, and that's what we have. We have so many resentments and hurts and revenge that we hold on to from the past, from the way past. And the past is gone. It only is alive because we keep it alive in our thoughts. It doesn't exist. It is gone. And yet we hold on tenaciously to it. So there's a Chinese proverb that he who does not forgive digs two graves. We don't realize what we do to ourselves when we don't forgive. And it's only hurting us. It doesn't make any impact on anyone who's done anything to us. And so you think about who you might need to forgive in your life. And like I said, everybody's got people that you need to forgive. My teacher, Mary Morrissey, would say, if you think about that person and it's dangerous for them to walk across your mind, then you need to forgive them. So, where are the daggers that come out? Who are you holding resentments to? And realize that, from your childhood, from, any kind of family dynamics that went on, any abuse issues in particular, these are toxic poisons in the body. These are getting in the way. You cannot have your dreams. You cannot live your dreams until you clear these. And forgiveness is not saying it was okay for people to treat you in a bad way or abusive way. We're not saying that. The issue is forgiveness is allowing those emotions that you've been holding on to, letting go of those things, because that's not serving anybody, and certainly not serving you or your body. So part of it is understanding that forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a process. And so it's part of what you need to be able to do. You need to decide who you're going to forgive. So think about that right in this moment. Who comes to top of the list? Where's the person with the most resentment in your life? There's usually one person that stands out. Do you want to forgive that person? You have to make a decision. So step one is saying, okay, I'm going to clear this. I'm tired of carrying this around. So many of my clients, and we're talking, childhood stuff, or, one woman was working with her stepmother, 17 years of resentment around her marrying her father after her mother died. I mean, it's just when she realized that 17 years, every time she saw this woman, and she saw her frequently, she still was holding this resentment. Not good stuff. Let it go. So make a decision. Who do you want to forgive? And then the idea from there is to release any thoughts of harm or ill will for that person, for hurting you. That's just what happened. Accept it. It's part of what went on, but just release the idea that you're going to have feelings of wanting to harm them or to get back at them, or to do something to them. Think about that, because that's only hurting you. So you have to be willing to release that. And then step number 3 is the tricky part. This is sending love. This is praying or saying, sending love, energy, or being able to speak to them. I do a lot of work with clients. We actually imagine we're speaking to the person. A lot of people have passed on, and you're still holding on to resentment. They're not even in this earth plane, and you haven't forgiven them. So we have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a real conversation with the real person. It can just be the releasing of that, letting go of the negative feelings and actually sending them love, knowing that hurt people hurt people. That's just the way it is. That they were hurt too. They acted to you from a place where they were hurt, and there is an area of getting compassion for them and understanding that they are coming from that place, and just be able to send them love and understanding of that they are also victims of something that hurt them in the past. So being able to send them love. It's a challenge for some people, and some people we have to do this more than once, but it is important. And then the 4th step is to just let it go, give it to God, because ultimately that is where your higher power, however you think of it, that is where that issue gets resolved. That's where divine justice happens. It's not up for us to do that in this lifetime, and allow God to make the wrong right. Give it up to God. Really important. Another aspect of this is self-forgiveness, because ultimately it's all self-forgiveness, and we are so mean to ourselves, and we really want to be able to forgive ourselves for whatever we have done. So, whatever things show up for a reason, things happen for a reason, and they're there to show us to be more of who we are. So we make mistakes. It happens all the time. My mother used to say, it's good to make mistakes. That's why there's an eraser on the end of a pencil. You learn from what you've been through. You've learned from your mistakes. So don't beat yourself up for it. What are the things you want to forgive you for? What are the things that you did that weren't perfect, that didn't measure up in our conditioning of what's supposed to be? What are some things that you might be ashamed of that you've done? How can you forgive you? Again, releasing the toxic soil, letting go of this stuff, because it's not good, it doesn't help, and it's not going to get you to reach your goal, particularly in your holding this in your body, because that's where so much of the extra weight is, again, protecting us, is, again, holding on to that toxic bit. One of my favorite ones, and I'm just going to do this really briefly, is the Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian Code of Forgiveness. So this is my favorite one if you do nothing else, and you don't have to be able to spell it. But Ho'oponopono means to make right. And essentially it means to make it right with the ancestors, or to make it right with people with whom we have relations. That's how it's defined from the Hawaiian code. And it's really simple, and it's so powerful. In any situation you need to forgive for yourself or for someone else, you start with, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. And thank you. 4 simple phrases, but if you say them with meaning and conviction and integrity, and really send love when you say, I love you, you can actually change the dynamic. I have seen this happen. I've actually, even with practicing this within 10 minutes of an argument with a dear friend, and have her turn around and say, I'm really sorry, I was out of line. And I just been sitting there saying this silently to myself, sending her energy, and it shifted the energy, and she came back. If you have someone who's even not in the same space as you, or maybe at a distance, you can still say it, and you never know, you've created an opening for the dynamics to shift. I had one client said, why would I say I'm sorry? She was angry with her daughter. They'd had a big fight. Why would I say I'm sorry to her? And I said, well, you're sorry for harboring negative thoughts about that person. So we all have things to say that I'm sorry about. So try it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Incredibly powerful and a really great place to start practicing forgiveness. So step 4 is releasing your fears. And once you have gotten through the forgiveness piece, you really want to think about what is it that also is getting in the way, that you're most afraid of. And this is, again, we live in a fear-based world. Just listen to the news. We've been conditioned to do this. Think about stop watching the news, or the CNN constantly negative news. This is tremendous pressure for us to be afraid all the time of what's happening in this world. And it's such an illusion, and it's such lies, and it really has nothing to do with reality. But we buy into that we should be afraid, and there really is nothing to be afraid of. So we have to really work our brain around that. And a lot of it comes from our childhood. And here's where I do a lot of work with the inner child piece, because it's usually the inner child that holds the fears. The inner child that got really afraid, didn't feel safe, was abused in some way, or felt like they were not safe. And my inner child spent a lot of time hiding under the bed. So trying to identify what it was that inner child is afraid of, because it's holding you now hostage as an adult. And so many of my clients discover this, and they find that, it's like, wow, all right, that childhood fear, nothing to do with reality. It's a total illusion. It just came from that 5-year-old who was terrified and didn't know how to let go. So doing that work and releasing the blocks to truth, really, of what's really going on, and who you truly are, and what is really safe for you, is important to get in touch with and to do this work. And there's lots of different methodologies for that, and do a lot of work with, like I said, with the inner child and having a dialogue, but doing a lot of work with, shadow work is also an important piece of this, and doing a lot of clearing of and releasing techniques here. This is a lot of just the fears, letting them go. And a lot of the time it's just a matter of writing them down. Sometimes, like, what am I afraid of? And then speaking them out loud, really getting that. What are you afraid of? What comes to mind when you think about this? And we're carrying this stuff, and it's important. Say it out loud. I'm afraid of not having enough money. I'm afraid of not being loved. I'm afraid of not being enough as a person. There's a lot of things we bought into a long time ago, and we carry those as an adult, and they get in the way. And they're going to get in the way of you getting your dream body, because if you're afraid, you're not going to know that you can truly create whatever you want for your physical body. You're going to constantly worry about illness and things that don't make your body feel good. You're going to focus on all of the problems and issues in your life. And until you shift that over and start realizing that this isn't where you want to put your attention, you really want to focus on what is actually loving and at the high vibration end again. Remember, fear is in the low vibration stuff, not the place we want to live. But unfortunately, most of us have spent a lot of our life living there. So you can change that, identifying your fears, letting them go, and feeling safe, knowing that it's all as well, truly knowing that. And that really goes right into listening to your heart, because this is the place where we can connect with our higher vibration. And this is important because so many people are looking to fill ourselves up with external things, and that's where food comes in, and that's where relationships come in, and this is the whole idea that our own self-image is so poor that we don't feel like we are whole as a person, and that we have to look externally to add something to us, when actually inside of us is everything that we need to feel whole and fulfilled and totally loved and to live on the high end of the scale. So part of it is being able to really shift into the heart, that high vibration living, and tap into and listen to the inner wisdom. It's available to all of us. We all have high intuition. It hasn't been valued. We haven't used it. It's like a muscle. We've let it atrophy because it wasn't appreciated. It wasn't part of our culture as we were growing up. We actually were ashamed of our intuitive abilities, and we learned to not listen to them, to not pay attention. So the most important piece to doing this is to really feeling our feelings and getting in touch with letting things go and to release the weight on all of the things that are holding us in an unhealthy state, is to really get in touch with our higher guidance. And however you think of God and however you think of higher power, and really being able to do that. I like the Bob Proctor quote, is that prayer is when we talk to God, intuition is when God talks to us. So listening to those messages, being able to use them to just make decisions on what to do for our bodies. What does our body need? What does our body want to eat? We can do intuitive eating. The body will tell you what it wants. And chances are it's not chocolate cake, but it could be, you never know. But if you're listening to your body and that's truly what your body is telling you that it wants in that moment, then you eat it with no guilt, and you eat it from a place of knowing that that's what is important for you. But we don't do that. We don't listen. So being able to tap in, finding the higher power, and truly connecting to the divine, and being filled up from that place, being able to tune in and trust, and to really expect miracles in our life, knowing that we can be connected to this inner being that is actually who we are. And when we're connected at that level, we're connected to all humanity, all living things, and being able to be filled up from a place of incredible love from the other living beings on the planet, from the earth itself, and feeling that sense of connection, not the separateness. This is what takes away the hunger. This is what takes away the longing for stuffing our feelings. This is what makes us feel fully who we are, and feeling our own magnificence, and feeling our own confidence to be the person that we were at our birth, to be fully at our birthright of who we're meant to be. So this is so important, to make that connection, to trust yourself, develop the trust, and to really get to that point where we can do that. So to recap, we've raised our vibrations, living at the high end of the scale, trying to be as much as possible, 8 or above. That's the goal, living our life there. Knowing that life happens and occasionally we're going to have a bad day, but we want to live more in that realm. Feeling our feelings, really getting in touch and knowing that it's okay, and that the feelings are feedback, and that they're important, and that we can fully appreciate the joy that life has in every moment. Practicing forgiveness, letting go, loving people who have done things to us so that we can let that toxins go from our bodies, so we know that we don't need to hold on to that anymore. And releasing the fears that we've held on to, that we've learned to have, that are running our lives, and living from a place of knowing that we are safe and that all is well. And then listening to our heart, really tapping into the divine, tapping into our higher self and a divine knowledge, and knowing that we're living from our hearts, we're living from that loving place, that high vibration, and that's a new way to be in the world. So I wanted to just wrap it up with that and let people know that I am also working with with people on an individual basis, and I have a group going on now, and we'll start another group coaching in September. I won't be doing that for August because there's too many people on vacations, but we still have some openings for individual coaching, and we'll send that out, a link for people if they're interested, or you can contact me at Cecily, Cecily, at CoachCecily.com. Send me an email if you'd like to do that. I'm running a special. We've got a pretty steep discount on 8 sessions. It's running a program. We go through the 8 different processes, and it'll be a whole 8 hours of time one-on-one with me. If you're interested in doing that, going to really change your life, really going to make it a huge shift in your ability to finally let the weight go, to finally make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do the healing work inside that's going to be reflected on the outside of your body. So let me know then if this is something that you're interested. Again, Cecily, Cecily, at CoachCecily.com. And when you get the replay, you'll also get a link to sign up for individual coaching if that's something that you think will help you at this point. And would love to be able to work with you and to make a difference in your life, because I know what this has done for me and what a huge shift. Every day is so much fun to wake up and be this person that I feel like I should have been all my life. And I'm learning now to live this way and to live in joy. And it just is an exciting way to be. And it's available for everyone. And I'm so honored and privileged to be able to help people to do that for themselves. So you can also go to my website, which is at spiritualweightlossplan.com, and you can take a look at things there also and get in touch with me from there. So it's spiritualweightloss.com. And I really just want to end tonight with letting you know what an honor and privilege it is to be here to talk about this kind of thing that even a year ago I wouldn't have been able to articulate and to help people with. And I know that this is what I'm supposed to do and why I'm here. And I would love to be able to help you and to know that you had the support to go forward and have your own weight release journey and change your life to what it is what you deserve and to be the life of your dreams. So thank you all so much, and good night.